This is just a second video I wanted to do on creating a quiz, because there's a couple things I ran out of time on the last one. So let me just show you. Go to assessments again when you go into your module and click on test, and then just click create new test, and I'll call this TrialQuiz2. And then again, you can enter your description and your instructions for the test and then submit. And what I wanted to show you here, I showed you in the last video all the different question types that you have here. And the way I learned these guys is I just played with them. And if you choose a particular question type, it'll tell you how to do this. Like fill in multiple blanks. If I choose that, it will tell you up here. And if you want more help, it'll tell you, how you do the question. So if you need that help, it's there no matter what question type. So I'm going to cancel that. What I wanted to show you here is this other tab here that reuse questions. Now I have tons of question sets on my computer because I've been doing this for a long time, and a lot of these I created years ago using TestGen. If you use TestGen, you can create a test and you have to tell it to save it as a Blackboard type test, and you can actually upload. You can probably Google on how to upload a TestGen test into Blackboard, but mine are uploaded. So I can create a question set, create a random block, or I can just find questions. This is usually the only one I use. So let's say I want to find questions, and when I find questions, there's a list of question pools that I loaded up, because usually when you load it up, it calls it a pool. It doesn't call it a test until you actually create a test. So here's some tests that I've created. And so I could go into, say, let's just say I wanted to go in this assignment, and I could pick that test, and then let's click that off, and then let's go into exam 1 here, and let's click that question, and then let's just go to another exam and pick that question, and so forth. And then down here at the bottom, and to see that, I'm going to have to click this thing so it'll open it. So I click submit, and let's see if it works. Okay, so I got a total of 3 questions, and if I want them all to be the same, I can just say click all, and I can give them 5 points if I want, and then I can update that. And then if I wanted to, I could supplement these questions with other questions by using this menu over here that I showed you how to do in the first video. Now the one thing that you can do, the way I understand these question sets or random blocks is, like if I wanted to have, let's say I wanted to have several questions like this right here with different numbers. Well, I'd have to have them in a certain block, and then I would have to tell it to choose from that block, and then it would randomly choose a question for each student. So I don't use that much because I find it seems kind of complicated. It seems like there's a lot of work that you have to do to create these blocks. Now this over here, when you click on upload questions, over here, this you browse some file. So I'm assuming I could browse a TestGen file, but I'm not 100% sure on this because I never use this. But this is another way to upload questions. But they have to be, as you can see up here, they have to be specially formatted a certain way in order to upload them. So you could upload them from your hard drive if you know how to format them, but again, I don't use that. So again, let me just mention again, because I didn't have much time in the last session to tell you that here in question settings, it's very important to specify negative points, because let's just say you had a matching question and you didn't have it specified to use negative points. Well, you wouldn't even get that prompt to place negative values on missed questions. It would all it would do is if the ones they got right, it would give them a perfect score on that question, even if they missed some, because you didn't tell it to specify negative. Also, think about a question that's multiple, that has multiple answers. So let's say you had a question, and how many numbers, which of these numbers are divisible by 3? And let's say you put in like 5 numbers and 3 of them were divisible by 3. Well, if you don't have this clicked, to specify negative points for answers that are incorrect, if you don't have this, then all they have to do is select every answer and it'll give them full credit because they clicked the answers to the ones that were correct, but it's not going to take off for the ones that are incorrect unless you have that. So you really have to make sure that's correct. And there's other stuff here that you can use. Like this, it always gives you a default point value of 10. You can change that, but since I usually do the point values a certain, I usually make up whatever point values I want. So by doing what I showed you a few minutes ago, by simply just choosing all questions and then typing in the point values and then hitting update. And so, now if you want, you can go through each one of these and change the value of the points. So if I wanted all of them to be 5 points except for this one, I could go in here and change it. And then the other thing you can do also, if you wanted a question to be extra credit, you could click extra credit. And now if I click extra credit and submit, now instead of 15 points, it's only going to say it's a 10-point quiz, and then the 5 points would be 5 points extra credit. And so that's how that works. Okay, now let me continue going down through here, and let me show you this again. When you click OK, and then you just hit submit, and then I'll show you. You can this is a description, so the students, when they see it, they'll know what it is in the module. So that's a little bit different than from the other description we had. So I don't open tests in new windows. You always make sure you make the link available, because you'll think you've got a test ready and it's not available because you haven't clicked yes here. I don't do the announcements here because I usually tell the students plenty of times, multiple times, when the test is available. And again, if you want to do multiple attempts, you can click down here and put the number of attempts. But what you want to do if you do multiple attempts is make sure you choose whether you want it to record the highest grade or the first grade attempted, or it could even average the 2 grades that they do if you do 2 grades there. Forced completion, this makes sure that they complete it there in one setting. But I tell you what I do sometimes is I tell them in the instructions they have to complete in one setting, but I don't hit forced completion. And then that way, if the test crashes, then they can go back and do it again. And it'll have the answers that they've saved. So, that's just something I do. But if you want to do forced completion, you can do that. But if it crashes, it may not save their answers. But anyway, I set a timer, so you can set the timer for however you want. And you can actually leave this off. That way they could actually keep working, but it's going to tell you that they submitted it. They went over the time that they had available. If you turn it on, it'll shut their test down after whatever time you put here, 60 minutes, it'll shut their test down. Okay, now even if you don't have the forced completion clicked, they should know that when they leave, if they leave during that exam, the timer is still going to run. So they're going to run out of time if you've got a time limit on this. And then, of course, I always display it a day or two after the deadline, just in case I have any students that need, you know, that need to take it late. That way I don't have to go back in and turn it back on. And again, you know, you can password attempt. You can put a password for any of your quizzes or exams. And again, you put the due date. Now, I usually don't click this because, like I said, if I have students that have a valid excuse to take the test late, I usually leave this not clicked. But if you do click it, then after the due date's over, nobody can do the exam after that date has passed. But that's up to you. And then, you know, you're probably going to want the test in your Grade Center score calculations if you use the formulas in the Grade Center, but I'm not going to talk about setting the Grade Center up for formulas. That's something you'll have to decide on your own. You can let the Grade Center do your calculations, or you can just let the Grade Center keep the grades in there, and then you can do the calculations offline if you want to, and then create a column for the grade. And then here, after submission, I usually let the students see, only see their submitted answers, not the correct answers, because I want exam security. But I'll let them do that. But then once after the availability end date, then I'll do correct and submitted, and then they can see all of that. And also, if you provide feedback, I provide feedback on all of my assignments so that they can get a hint on what they did wrong. But if you do the feedback, you click on the feedback to show this. And you can also show the incorrect questions as well there. So anyway, if you want to show the feedback and the correct answers, you would choose you know, after, I haven't clicked this yet, but you would choose that, and then you would click correct answers, and then you would click feedback, and so forth. All right, but I'll take that off because it's going to give me an error. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to mention before this runs out is you can show them the questions all at once. I like to do one at a time if they're taking it at home, because I don't want them to be able to print out the entire test and show it to someone else. Usually students won't take the time to print out each question individually. So anyway, prohibit backtracking. I don't use that, but if you don't want students going backwards on a test, you could prohibit backtracking. And then sometimes I randomize the questions, but usually if I have extra credit questions, I don't randomize them. Or if I have, like, question 6 is tied to question 5, I don't want to randomize them in that case either, because you know, I might have question 5 and then they've got to use question 5 to answer question 6. So anyway, hopefully these 2 videos will take care of everything for you. And then again, you click submit. Now, before I let this one go, I do want to tell you that you need to go into the Grade Center and tell the Grade Center how you want the score to display on this test. Do you want the score to display as a score or as a percentage? And there's also some other options that you can tick in the Grade Center. Trial quiz that I did, these trial quizzes that I did, but you can drop down this box and click on Edit Test here, and then you can, in the Grade Center, and you can edit the test, or you can also edit the test options as well there, and then that's where you can put in whether it's a percentage or a score. And you also want to move these. You can use this information up here to move them. Under Manage, Column Organization, you can move your quizzes around.